Hello, and welcome to another episode of Your Therapist Needs Therapy, podcast where two mental health professionals talk about their mental health journeys and how they navigate mental wellness while working in the mental health field. I'm your host, Jeremy Schumacher, licensed marriage and family therapist. To support the show, like, subscribe, do those internet things that helps people find my work and the people who I have on. Today, I have a guest who I have selfishly kept in my back pocket because he's a wonderful human being, and anytime I get the chance to converse with him, it brightens my day. And so I've kept him for a moment of need. And if anyone's paying attention to what's going on in the world, I decided now is that time where I need to have a conversation with Bruno. So today I am joined by Bruno Lenzi. Bruno, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. And I'm surprised by these introduction words because I feel the same when we're together in our multiple meetings, online meetings. And I always connect to, well, we won't have video on the podcast, but I always connect to your posters on your background. And I have my own books connecting to your posters. And I was like, oh my God, Jeremy is a familiar. It's a friend from the beginning.
Yes. So Bruno, you're my first guest from South America. So I'm crossing some continents off. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about some of the cultural differences in our practices. But I want to start with the same question I always start with, which is, how did you end up in the mental health field? What was your journey to the mental health spaces?
All right. I am speaking from Florianópolis, Santa Catarina, Brazil, which is a very small island that is capital of our state. It's the second state of Brazil from south to north. So the second one, we have a little island. That's the capital of the state. So we have a culture of being a small tourist island and at the same time having our federal university. So people from all over the state and the country come to study around here. We have a very academic and knowledge production community. Personally, my mother founded our institute, our association, when she graduated, after she graduated from psychology in our town here. She was from the first group of students that got graduated in psychology. Psychology wasn't even a profession, a lawful profession in Brazil at the time. So she was graduated, and afterwards we had the law recognizing the psychologist profession. And she began studying psychodynamics, working with families in the hospital, with kids in the hospital, but with the kids, there were always the parents. And then she began to meet the limits of psychodynamics and began to study family therapy. That was when, together with a few colleagues, they founded an institute founded by students that hired their teachers to train them in family therapy. That was, I love this story because from the beginning, it is made by the people that want to learn, not by a few of us that want to teach. They wanted to learn, to become, and they hired their teachers. So right after her graduation in family therapy, she kept building this knowledge, teaching new students, new groups. And this was in 1987. Since then, I joined in when I got graduated in psychology in 2011. And after I made an internship, a quick internship in Houston with Harlene Anderson at the Houston Galveston Institute, I came back to our institute to teach and practice collaborative and dialogical therapy. That's the long story short.
No, that's good. That's perfect. There's so much in there that I want to talk about. Harlene is our sort of common factor where our professional paths have crossed with the Taoist Institute. Harlene I've talked about it on other podcasts, but really is the reason I'm still in therapy, because in grad school, I had a lot of the evidence-based practice stuff, and I hadn't found the fit for how I approached therapy. And Harlene's book, Conversations, Language, and Possibility, was like, oh, not only can I do therapy, hooray, but also like someone else is doing it the way that my brain wants to do it. And so she's very foundational in my work. I've met Harlene and I told her she was my therapy crush, and Harlene's this little old lady and I'm in my 30s. So she was very taken aback, but really, truly, for the field of psychology, maybe not a super recognizable name, but for the work that I have, she's as big of a celebrity as can be. So I want to talk about Houston Galveston and the Taos Institute, but I'm curious, because you grew up with a parent in the field that you're in. Was that sort of something that you were drawn to? Was that something that you like bristled against and pushed against? Both my parents are teachers, and my dad teaches AP psychology, the college level course in high school. And so people are often like, oh, so you want to be a therapist because your dad was? I was like, no, absolutely not. So I'm curious what that was like for you, if that was something that spoke to you early on, or that was something that you wrestled with, or how that journey went.
Yeah, of course I have a story about that. And I would begin with our lunch moments table, when mom was talking about arresting moments with clients, adventures that she was able to live through their stories, and she would share with us those moments. It seemed very emotional moments, very exciting moments, very tense, and everything was never the same, right? It was always something new, and I was, that seems like something that I could spend quite a few years doing. But when I told her, she was taken aback. She was scared, because she was like, my son, it's not an easy life. It is not easy money. It is not easy life. And it's not because you're my son that any door will be open, because it's not like that. She has her practice, and I have to have my clients, and my clients will stay with me because of my work, my abilities, my connections. So, but I was very confident at the time. I was already, our family was already very into self-development and development in family development and quality time, dialogue, conversation. Mom is a family therapy too. Of course, at that time, around to close to 2010, we were not yet introduced to collaborative and dialogical practices, but we were already dating narrative therapy and
Sure.
the amazing paper of Not Knowing from Hardin and Harry. So introduced, yes, but not as intimate to the work. Anyways, I chose to follow this path, and what happened afterwards was that when I was close to graduation, mom said, okay, you did it. It seems that you took it seriously. You're graduating, so now you have to do something different. You have to bring something that will really make you your own therapist, make you Bruno therapist, the therapist, and not mom's son. So we talked about, and I talked about with my teachers, and we were like thinking of Australia and New Zealand to learn from narrative therapists, or Houston to learn from Hardin. And at that time, I was a little more into the the conversation, and I was really in love, passionate about the concept of not knowing, of witness, and being public as a therapist. So it is Harleen for me. I went to Houston, spent like 5 to 6 weeks over there with them, and came back with my own identity and all the conflicts that it came with, because I wanted it to be our focus. I was already very critical about the way we were practicing family therapy, like the all the mixed, not very rigorous um, doing of it. And then we had a very turbulent season of becoming social constructionists, and after a few more years, radically collaborative and dialogical practitioners.
Yeah, and I think I'll speak a little bit for most of my audience is therapists in America. Like the postmodern therapies are sort of grouped together as collaborative language, which is what Bruno and I connect over, narrative therapy, which is the Michael Whites from Australia, New Zealand, and solution focused, which I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is really where solution focused got its start. So that's got like a historical context here, and is still, I was trained by somebody who trained under Insu Kim Berg, who is one of the founders of the brief solution focused model. So those get grouped together, but they're very different.
Very different.
And so they all sort of start from this philosophical place of postmodernism. Michel Foucault and different French philosophers in the 60s, but like therapy and psychology in general is always, I would say, like a decade or two behind where philosophy is. So it's like these postmodern movements hit the therapy world in the 80s, about 20 years after they had been written about and talked about. So there's almost a weird cultural like lapse that happens sometimes. But shifting to social construction is a big shift, because it is so very different even from the other postmodern philosophies of narrative and solution focused, because it is moving away from that evidence-based model in America here, not something insurance likes at all, and if you're looking for reimbursement. So it is a big shift, and then to really make it how you see everything, you're talking about this radical shift. Like it's a paradigm. It's hard to explain to people who haven't experienced it. It is a paradigm shift in how you view every single interaction you have with people.
Yeah. And it's crazy, because I remember listening to a conversation with Sheila McNamee from Social Constructionism, and she was saying like, but our practice is evidence-based, not their evidence-based, our evidence, because we really do practice based on our client, based on their story, their experiences. The whole collaborative and dialogical therapy was built with the clients from day one. So it's a very humanizing practice. And I every time I get very critical about it, I go back to the seminal texts, and it is confirmed again. And talking as a Latino person, I am very critical about colonization. So I still stand with Harleen and the Taos because of their sensibility to how therapy can be a colonization tool, and how collaboration and dialogue resist colonization, resist the deposit of ideologies on the minds of others. And we cannot say that about many other practices that are being done by our colleagues.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and just the medical model as sort of the Western idea of the medical model, I would argue like flatly is a colonizing tool. You are well and you are not, you are healthy and you are not, is just a way to sort people and create these in-group, out-group dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why we do it over here, based on community-based mental health. We are very critical and oppositional of the DSMs and CIDs, because we can't understand how this will help people. It will, first of all, alienate people from their identity, giving them a general identity, a box to fit in, and that's already enough for us to resist it and to join people into learning and investigating their sufferings without the need of a name, an external name for it, unless they will benefit from security or health insurance, and then we will do a very conscientizational process of this is not you, this is for them, for the insurance, but you're way more than these few pages can ever describe.
Yeah, and even with I own my own practice, so I don't need to diagnose, but when it's helpful for the client, talking a lot about the language around diagnosis and doing a lot of meaning making for each person individually, as opposed to saying this is what the diagnosis means, asking what does this diagnosis mean to you. We're using it as a shorthand. It's a quick way to summarize an experience, but that experience is unique. And I think that's just so much more powerful than doing it the other way, where you're just slapping a label on somebody and fitting them into a box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do want to talk about the organization. Your mom was one of the founders and that you work with, because doing community-based healing is really great for a lot of reasons, but also is a phrase that's getting thrown around a lot, especially in America right now, as we're dealing with a fascist government and overtake. People are saying, oh, hey, like indigenous communities, Black and brown people have been doing community-based healing for a long time. Maybe we could learn from them, which is like, yes, correct, lovely. So yeah, do you mind talking a little bit about the association and sort of the community-based approach that you guys have been implementing for years now, right? Like we're
of course, thank you.
A long, successful run.
And if I may, we have the paper that we published recently translated to English, and it's available on a book on the Taos Institute website. If people search for dialogical praxis, Taos Institute, or dialogical praxis World Share books, they will find it. We have 5 of our authorial papers published and translated to English, available in this tiny book. A huge success for us, and thanks to Taos, because they granted us a grant to do this work, so we were paid to translate it, and it made it so much more possible for us to share our work. Again, Taos being anti-colonization and bringing our peripheral voices into the game. But over here, we work with a synthesis of the community therapy as made by Adalberto Barreto, huge name in Brazil. He began this practice synthesizing the dialogical aspects of Paulo Freire with indigenous and anthropological knowledge. How do we say that in English? Like ancestral knowledge, to make a very cultural sensitive practice that may be performed with a large number of people. So it's not like a traditional group therapy that we have, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 people. My teacher, Marilene Grandesso, which is a huge name in Brazil, she's a huge name in Brazil. She made, as I know, the biggest round of community therapy with 1,400 police officers. The sky photograph that was took from this conversational wheel is like a spiral of little heads, little dots that grows without end. And they had like several microphones being thrown around so people could speak. But the main focus of community therapy is not only speaking, but is connecting to a theme that is shared because we are under the same cultural umbrella. We are under the same, if not in our neighborhood, in our city, if not in the city, in the state, in the country, or in the West under late stage capitalism. We have a lot in common. So it's not about talking about the problems of one person, but how that theme represented by that person's example, so we can have material data, connects to all of us in some way. So we do our community therapy drinking a lot from this source, but also mixing it and synthesizing it with the sensitivities of collaborative and dialogical practice. Mainly when we give a lot of focus to our conversational questions to get the knowledge built from within the experience, and in the way that we promote listening as a skill and sharing as being public and talking about my themes, my experience in the first person. I always I, not you, not we, but my experience was that I did it this way, and what worked for me was da-na-na. So we have 4 online groups of community therapy being facilitated by 4 teams of 2, so 8 therapists that facilitates it. The one I facilitate with a colleague, it happens on Thursdays. Next week we have a meeting. It's an open group, so we have 2 of them that are open to everyone. Of course, we speak in Portuguese, but we have even hermanos from Latin America that join our group, and they try their Portuguese Spanish, and we make it work because the important thing is to listen, to connect with other people. We have a 3rd one that is specific for women, and now beginning a 4th one that is specific for Black community, Black population, being facilitated by, of course, Black therapists. And it's very Fanonian in their bibliographical references. So again, we are doing another synthesis to bring community therapy, dialogue, and Frantz Fanon's decolonizational texts and voice into this therapy. It was a little broad, but just to begin.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I mean, compared to what I think people have for a frame of reference, like you said, group therapy, people think 6 to 10, maybe 12 people. You do it for a couple of weeks and then your group therapy is done. And, like that's the sort of American, very broken mental health system of, and like it's because it's cheaper, right? Like that's why people do it this way here. You pay less per session. So, but it isn't, it's not what I have seen as collaborative practice. It is still individual people all coming together, and there's some group dynamic, but it is much more about each person's individual experience. And that can be healing when it's done well, but it's not done necessarily at scale, and not done with any sort of consciousness around class or on culture. It's sort of still that medical model of the therapist who knows best and is running things.
Yeah. Yeah. Our groups have around 25 people nowadays. If we do more marketing and promotional stuff, we get a lot more people. We can get to 60, 70 people. But we're holding it. We're always holding it, so we can manage the training, all the other responsibilities. But what I think it's very important about community therapy is that, and it's so connected to our practice in CD practices, collaborative dialogical CD, is that the goal is for the therapist to disappear. The goal is for the community to talk. Okay, I'm here, I'm there, just to make sure the time works. We have 90 minutes, so we have to go through certain stages of the conversation. So we have the initial ice breaking, so people can get comfortable in speaking, and then we select, we invite the first themes. We listen to 3 to 5 different clients and their themes from the night. So right after these 3 to 5 sharings, the whole group selects the theme that made more sense, or maybe they got them moved. So we work with a quick election on the chat, like, oh, I want Jeremy's story, I want Bruno's story, and we go with the simple majority because, again, we understand that the simple act of expressing and organizing all these abstract feelings into language and describing it to the group, to several weird, never known, never seen before people, it has a lot of power, a lot of transformational power to already be challenging yourself into sharing, into connecting, into giving it words that you may never had the chance to say before. And then we ask questions. The group asks questions. That's something that I'm very proud of our work, because we ask the community to get to know these people, this person, this example, this theme. So they ask questions to get to know his or her experience. That's the whole foundational principle of collaborative therapy, investigating it to broaden the data, to broaden the information. And so with more information, with more knowledge, we may access some creativity to work with it in different novel ways. So that's a very important stage for us. And finally, we have the final stage of the people that were asking questions, the group, not the selected person, will share their own experiences, their testimonies of how they connected to that theme and how they tried something to begin a overcoming process. So it's not the same thing. It's not so you do like that. No. It's I felt it's connected to the way I raised my kids, and the way I did it was through studying positive education, blah 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 blah. It's never a suggestion. It's never counseling. It's always sharing different resources. So if that one person wants to do something good, but it's for everybody, and the questions are for everybody. The one person will answer, but everybody's listening to those questions, and it's impossible not to think on apples if we're asking about apples, right?
Right. And that seems not just from the collaborative dialogue background, but also that's been a thing that you mentioned a little earlier for this organization, that it's been about teaching people, it's been about meeting people where they're at so they can use these skills, not that the therapist is needed to run the group, but that the community, that the collaboration that's built can then be used anywhere.
Yeah. And then people want to stay, even if they're not going through that issue anymore. The group is free. Our services are free. So people stay, and they all. Yesterday I was talking to one of our clients, because we have WhatsApp groups where everybody's in, so we can share the link on the WhatsApp group and they get into our meeting session. So they are always exchanging over there, always sharing something, a music, a song, or a text, or a video. And this one person was like, I've been here for 2 years now, and I can't remember when I stopped I stopped needing therapy, but I feel like I'm important to these people. I feel like I belong. And he's one of our clients. Like, he's been with us for 2 years now. Oh my God. It's crazy. We are always very aware and getting close to our, as we say, veteran clients, because they have they have the experience. They always help us to bring in the new clients, the new people that are joining in, that are a little uncomfortable with speaking large groups. And these are the community leaders that will really make it go forward and get characterized as a community therapy and not a group that it's always single session and has several persons. It has a continuity in the sense that the people are coming back,
Yeah.
but it's always beginning, middle, and end on the same session.
Yeah. And healing through connection. I think that's one of the things when I talk about collaborative work that I do. It's so hard to explain to people how it works because they want like that linear trajectory of healing. Like, yeah, I don't really do that much in session. Like, well, what skills, what techniques to use? Well, I don't. I just try and be a person in the room with someone else and listen. And that is so healing for people. That is the connection of you're not alone and that other people care and that your experience is valid and people will listen to you. People will ask questions. Like it doesn't need to be solving problems or giving advice. It's that collaboration. It's that connection that creates the space where people can heal.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible. It's how simple it is, but at the same time, it's a simplicity that we are alienated from. We forgot how we need connection. We forgot how to listen. We forgot how to humanize and be humanized, mutually humanizing practices. That is dialogue in my experience.
Yeah.
So we don't need to do anything if we're there connected, being human beings and not professional therapists, but being human beings that has a certain set of skills, especially in listening. I think my most favorite skill that I am always developing is my listening and my feeling, my ability to feel with the person, not to feel stronger than my client, but to feel with my client and
Yeah.
the same intensity as they're feeling, to connect. And this is humanizing. We have to be humans if we want to be healthy. And what is happening is that we're becoming our professions, becoming our roles, becoming things
Yeah.
that are not human, and these get people sick.
Yeah. Well, and it's not from that top-down perspective either. There's no hierarchy where the therapist is we're not feeling bad for our clients. We're not like, oh, you poor thing, your brain is broken. That must be so difficult. We're joining with them instead of sort of being on that like pedestal looking down on them. And that's a much different experience. And at least for my clients, not one they get from other professionals.
Yes, yes. We are very used to what we still hear a lot from our clients is that, oh, I didn't like it because only I spoke. He or she didn't say a thing for several sessions, and then when he or she spoke, she made a TED talk about my life and explained to me everything that I was going through, and I was a little bit overwhelmed about all these explanation what I should and should not do. And I was like, oh my God, yes, again. First of all, people don't connect, the therapists, right? Don't respond. And I'm not saying answering, I'm saying respond to clients,
Right.
even non-verbally, but being here, feeling, breathing with them. And then second, it's not about education, it's therapy, it's dialogue, it's not explaining, it's not educating people about their lives, about how to be normal. It's about connecting. It's about an investigation. It's about learning more and more and more until all this knowledge brought to consciousness will inevitably foster creativity. It is inevitable to be more creative after you're conscious to a reality. You cannot go back to the same thing after you're conscious to that thing.
Yeah. And again, I'm just laughing because it is. I'm thinking of times where I've tried to explain this process to people who are very rigid. I spent 5 years in higher ed, which is another very broken system in America, and just like explaining, like I was using basically appreciative inquiry, which is another school of thought from that the Taos Institute has a lot of great folks who do that work. And using it I worked with athletes, so using it with the team captains. So working on some mental health stuff with them. And it's just sort of like, well, like, what are you studying? What are your measurements? What are these things? Like, oh, no. Like, I'm letting them do it. Like, I'm not doing it. They're doing it. And it was just such this like foreign concept as like, well, you're the leader, you're the educator, you're the therapist. So you should be doing the most. And I was like, no, I should be doing the least. Like if I've done it right, like I'm sitting back and letting them take over. And they, right, like you said, inevitably come to their own solutions. And like that works better.
Yeah.
Then they don't need me. They just go do it themselves.
There is a saying, I think it was Harleen, that I it really struck and stayed in my heart after I've been to Houston, that it was something like, but is collaborative therapy faster, more faster than other therapy practices?
Yeah.
And Harleen would say it's not faster, it's not slower, it is on my client's time.
Yeah.
It's on my client's rhythm. I was like, go Harleen! If it's not on the client's rhythm, it is not for the client. It's right. And I will say a lot to my students that we must resist the magical trick and the how do you say when New Year's, when we get those fireworks?
Yeah.
Not about fireworks and magic tricks on therapy. Even if the client goes like, oh my God, I loved that reflection that you made, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to get clients dependent on their therapists. It's way better when the results, the outcomes happen between sessions, when the client is just living their lives and suddenly they do something different. That's the outcome that we're looking for.
Yeah. I get a lot of feedback that it doesn't. It's weird. I'm recording this for public consumption, but I get a lot of feedback that I don't do a lot. But then I will simultaneously get feedback from other clients that say, like, you're the therapist who's given me the most feedback I've ever gotten. And like, it's always, I like getting feedback like that, where people are coming in with some sort of expectation for how therapy is supposed to go. And then that's like, we build it together. And so there isn't an expectation, and that frees it up so much to have very different experiences. Occasionally I still get someone who's like rigidly like, no, give me homework, give me worksheets, and just reflecting that back. But it's one of those, it's so joyful in a way that I never got with when I was in school and trying to implement treatment planning and some of this other stuff. Like, to journey with someone is so much different. It's a much different experience to sit with than I'm going to fix this.
And you know, when we look at our mentors, our teachers, Harleen, Ken Gagan, they are old folks.
Yeah.
They are 80 on their 80s forward. So, and they're doing it. Harleen is coming to Brazil at the end of the month. We're going to meet again. So they're doing it with health, with life quality, and that's a road that I want to take, to be able
Yeah.
to keep working with it without burnout, without getting ill myself through my old age. I don't mind working on the last day of my life, because it's very intense, and I can see myself having a heart attack with one of my clients. I hope they don't get traumatized, but it's something that fulfills us back, because it's
Yeah.
human connection. It's not one-sided. It's
Right.
mutual.
Yeah. Yeah. How, I don't want to put you in a place to speak for an entire country, but what's sort of just like, I guess, the general stance around mental health in Brazil? Is it something that's relatively accepted? Is there some I don't know, buy-in? Is there some work to get people invested in the process, or is it pretty like, yeah, this is a thing that's well accepted and people go to therapy and that's normal?
Yeah, I don't think so. It is always a struggle to
Mhm.
get to talk about it. Of course, we're having a lot more success. It's not a taboo anymore. People talk about
Yeah,
it. Of course, it may be, but it's not the main. It's not the rule anymore. It was. It used to be. But what I struggle the most is how colonized our views of mental health are. So people don't know, and it's not their fault. It's hard to get some critical readings of mental health, because the monopoly is so strong on over diagnosis as treatment. Come
yeah,
on, diagnose doesn't treat.
right.
Meds don't treat. Meds
Yeah,
work. Oh, they work. Don't get me wrong, they work, but they don't treat. They
right.
won't. They won't strengthen you.
Yeah,
It's like a surgery and physiotherapy. What
right.
really strengthens your body is physiotherapy. It's the
Yeah,
recovery process, not the
right.
surgery. If you don't do anything, the surgery may even impair your movement
Right.
forever.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
mental health is a struggle to bring people to talk to us, like, informally, just to plant the seed, and then they get connected. I remember a very traditional family that I had as clients, and one day, after months, the father would tell me, but Bruno doesn't do therapy with us. He's like a family's friend. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
If that's what he needs to be coming back in our month-wide family therapy process, I can
Yeah.
be the family friend, and that is therapy for them. That is transformational for them. Mm.
Yeah. 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 The class consciousness is, I mean, I'm rolling my eyes. It's a podcast. People can't see that, but
Yeah.
Bruno see me roll my eyes. It's so we obviously have an authoritarian regime that is working against this and rolling things back, like diversity and equity movements. But it is, you're talking about Frantz Fanon, like somebody who wrote like the 60s and 70s. This is not like a new concept. And drawing from a lot of the philosophy, like the books I have on my shelf in my office, and first of all, a bunch of high fantasy. It's my favorite author. And then I have a shelf of comic books. And then the very bottom is my therapy books. But like it's far more philosophy. It's Michel Foucault, and it's other Guy Debord, and it's books about propaganda and things. Like it's about living through this modern life more than it is therapy books or self-help books. And I think
Oh,
clients are always surprised, like you don't have a lot of psychology books on your shelf. I'm like, no, that's not, I don't know that that's how people heal. Um, so I love just the class consciousness and that you have it accessible to so many people. That's a model that so many people are struggling to figure out how to make that work in America, because we're so committed to a for-profit healthcare model, which like isn't working for anyone but the insurance companies, and yet it's very hard to divest from that.
yeah. Yeah. And it is threatening, and I like to be threatening. But from time to time, the psychology council will knock in our doors, or people will get us like into investigations, because community-based mental health doesn't need professionals to be medical professionals, physicians, psychologists. Need to be people sensitive to suffering.
Yeah.
Need to be people wanting to connect, and the preparation is very subtle. It's not the academic studying that will make great therapists, great community therapists. And that's what we do in our institute. We're working with clients, and they were like, "Oh, but I loved our experience so much. How can I become a therapist?" You know, jump in. We have a 18-month course where we train therapists from all over the place, from all areas of professional background, because to learn collaborative dialogical practice, to learn social constructionism, to learn community-based mental health, it is not on the universities. It is
Right.
it is on the
people.
streets. It's
Yes.
with the people. Yes, we have to get out of these elitist intellectual hubs and go back to the neighborhood, to the where people are living their struggles, and learn with them.
Yeah. And for people who are like, I'm a heady intellectual, that's what my brain likes. There is all this deep, heavy stuff, like reading seminal text on social construction is not super easy. Like,
No.
you have to go slow and actually process what you're reading, because it is kind of heady stuff. But then in practice and application, it is just very much about being a person who's connecting with another person. And so I always appreciated that depth, because it's not unscientific, it's not anti-evidence, it's just decolonize. And that's really lovely, and that depth that's there for the people who want the heady stuff and the thinking things and want to read the books and the texts that formed it. That's all stuff that you can really, really sink your teeth in. And you don't need to pass a test on that stuff to be able to relate to another person and create a helpful space.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I too love my philosophy. I like to read my Wittgenstein, my John Schotters, my Mikhail Bakhtin. But what I get from them is the do you know Studios Ghibli's Miyazaki?
Yes.
So he was ranting on anime, and he was like, anime is a mistake, because people, the mangakas, the writers of anime, they don't look to people. They are found in their little rooms writing their stuff from their mind. But Miyazaki looks into life being lived, and that's our philosophy. That's what Bakhtin was saying when he studied Dostoevsky's books, how Dostoevsky was able to depict life, self in his characters. Wittgenstein will say that we have to come back to the horse in the meaning that is not soft, smooth, horse reality of language, not the logical language, not the grammatical rules, but the rules as they are played in language games between people. I love those philosophies. They really have me going back to downtown and just living with people, looking at people, relating, connecting to people.
Yeah, and it always keeps it like fascinating. Like, I've been in therapy for 16 years, and I'm like, everyone's always so interesting. Like, it's never boring when you have this approach, when any conversation when the way somebody uses a word in a unique way, or how their partner responds to a certain phrase, like that's always so like new and fresh, because you're meeting these people as the experts in their own life, that they know what they're doing, and that like it's learning about them. And so it's always interesting. It's never like, oh, another affair case or another whatever. Like it's always fresh and new.
Yeah. You know how Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, English, in Portuguese we don't have, it's just scouts.
Gendered.
We don't gender this word. So
Yeah.
scouts have their badges of merit. I
Yeah.
always say that our students get their badge, one badge of merit when they say that they don't find any client boring anymore, because that's a skill you build, and it's a very subtle and special skill to build, to be able to be fascinated by any content that the client
Yeah.
brings to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Bruno, how are we doing for time? Do you have a few more minutes?
I have, yes.
Okay. So fitting with the theme of the podcast, I'm curious, just sort of how you take care of yourself. What is your self-care? What does cultivating joy look like in your life? As an American going through an authoritarian regime, I'm curious, coming out of Bolsonaro running things in Brazil and where you're at now. Like, yeah, what do you do to take care of yourself? What does sort of your process look like when you're not in the therapy space?
Ooh, I was ready for this question. I was wanting to get here. And of course, I have my therapy group. I do my therapy in a group. It's very rare to want an individual session nowadays, but when it happens, I have Adela Garcia, an Argentinian collaborative dialogical therapist. She is so amazing, and she speaks Spanish, but it's closer to Portuguese, so I feel culturally connected, easily connected. But beyond therapy, and that's the important thing. That's what keeps me sane in this world. I am organized with the radical movement, with the communists here in Brazil. That really helps me to have a place not only to feel the anguish and hate, class hate, but to work. So we're working on occupations of people. People are occupying these abandoned buildings and living there. So we're working with them, protecting them legally. And I work with the community therapy of the community, and they are a community. They have to be a community. It's not just neighboring, it's community. They have the community farming, they have the community education, the community school. Everything is it's communally based. Sorry, English. That really helps me to fulfill my heart after all the draining of the news and getting the hard part, the macro part of the oppression. Yes, over here every week we're having more and more news of how the extreme right and the fascists are very well organized, very full of money to invest into propaganda and to invest into getting into people's minds and hearts. And the pueblo is being kidnapped by this propaganda. If we don't do something with way less than they have, we will have them elected again. And then the danger only goes forward, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm not uh, 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 when I'm not feeding my political self, I can feed my therapist self with philosophy. It really makes me happy to have my mind blown by a few words on the paper. I love it to melt my brain. And me and my wife, she's also a therapist. We were reading John Schotter's book, and we counted the time we were able to read like 10 pages per hour. It's
Yep.
very, very little for our rhythm. So hard it was to get to turn a page.
Yeah.
And on my more informal and just relaxing time, I love my literature. I love my role-playing games. I play a Brazilian system that is based on Dungeons and Dragons on the
Mhm.
third edition. So they got the system, but they do it the Brazilian system world building. It's amazing. With my very curated group of friends that we were able to connect countrywide to play together, and there are no fascists between us. So selecting people that I will be able to be vulnerable, that I will be able to have fun with without the looming threat of a fascist word idea and position. I think
Yeah.
these are the main health feeding resources. Today I just finished reading Yellowface. It's amazing. It's from the
Yep.
same author of The Poppy War. She's
Yep.
a Chinese American writer, amazing writer. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll go back to Middle Earth before
I see
the.
some Tolkien. I see some Ursula K. Le Guin back there. I'm
Oh
seeing the
yes,
sci-fi back there. Yeah.
you were the first one to see Ursula here. She's a recent. Uh, uh, yeah, I forgot the word. She's a
Uh,
recent purchase.
Purchase. Sure. Yep.
Purchase. Yes, she's a
Yeah.
recent
I've got
purchase.
my
I was looking
I've got
for
my
it.
cinematic theater-sized poster of Lord of the Rings behind me from Fellowship of the Ring. Ursula K. Le Guin is a favorite of mine for sure. Stephen
Mhm.
Erickson. I don't know if you've read Malazan Book of the Fallen, but I'll do a plug here. There are 10 books in the main series, and that's the top shelf in my office. And people always ask me, like, oh, that's just my favorite
Ah.
series. If you like fantasy, that's my recommendation. Always
Mhm.
nice. Always nice to go to Middle Earth and
Mhm.
see people get through the struggle together. Yeah.
Yeah. Finding hope in desperate
Yeah.
times.
Yes, for sure. Um, Bruno, this has been lovely. This is I try not to have expectations, but this is what I hoped it would be.
Ah.
Um,
Yes.
if people want to find more about your work, if people are able to support the work that you're doing, um, where can they go? How can they find you?
We have a website. It's assinsc, assinsc.org.br. We It's easier to find us through Instagram. We're still under Mark's monopoly of getting connected to people. We still have a little liberty. We're not harassed by him yet, but people can find us with Assim SC. It's ASSIMSC.
Yep.
People can find me through my email. I have an Instagram. I don't like it. I try to
Yeah.
forget I have it because it's hard to close it down. So I would love to connect with people through email, through WhatsApp. So email, it's easier. It's my name, Bruno, then P from my surname, Pereira, P, and Lenzi is LENZI dot, at gmail.com.
Yep.
And people can find my email and stuff on Google with our publishings. So if we
Yes.
search for Bruno Lenzi dialogical practice
Yeah.
something, it
Well,
will show up.
yes, it does come up. You're the only Bruno Lenzi therapist when I searched for it.
Oh, good, great.
But also the World Share on Taoist has a lot of publications that are free to download. You mentioned that earlier, so we'll also link to that if people want to find those articles that are translated. Some of them are up just on the interwebs as well too. As I was prepping the podcast, I found some of them without downloading the book. So that stuff is out there. We will have links to all that great stuff in the show notes.
Oh,
Bruno,
thank you.
Lovely as always. Thanks for taking the time to join me today.
I had a lot of fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah, sounds good. And to all our wonderful listeners, thanks for tuning in again. We will be back next week with another new episode. Take care, everyone.